Welcome to True Crime Case Files. Today, we delve into a chilling story of jealousy, betrayal, and a deadly obsession. This is the case of Mike Muir, a beloved family man whose life was tragically cut short. Mike Muir was a 42-year-old man who lived in Riverside, California, a city known for its hot summers and beautiful orange groves. Mike was well known in his community. He was charismatic and outgoing, making friends easily wherever he went. Mike worked as a project manager at a local construction company and was respected by his colleagues for his dedication and hard work. He lived with his wife, Jackie, and their 10-year-old son, Bender. Mike was a loving father who always made time for his family. He enjoyed playing catch with Bender in their backyard and took him to soccer practice every weekend. Mike's wife, Jackie, ran a small home-based business, selling handmade crafts on Etsy. Mike loved golfing and often played at the Riverside Golf Club. He was also an avid TV watcher, with a particular love for classic sitcoms like Friends and Seinfeld. On weekends, you could find Mike participating in local charity events, often organizing fundraisers for causes like the American Cancer Society. In July 2018, Riverside was experiencing record heat. Despite the sweltering temperatures, Mike was in high spirits. He was excited about an upcoming business deal that promised to be a significant milestone in his career. He spent hours preparing presentations and meetings, hoping to secure a big contract for his company. Mike was also busy planning a family vacation to London. He had booked tickets for a tour of Buckingham Palace and a visit to the Harry Potter studio tour, knowing how much Bender loved the books and movies. The family had already started packing and discussing the places they wanted to visit. Mike looked forward to seeing the historic sights and spending quality time with his loved ones. Friends described Mike as kind-hearted and generous. He often helped neighbors with home repairs and volunteered at the local food bank. His friendly nature made him a beloved figure in the community. Mike dreamed of one day starting his own construction company and expanding his charitable work. He hoped to provide a better future for his family and make a lasting impact on his community. In the days leading up to his death, Mike's life seemed perfect. He had a loving family, a promising career, and exciting plans for the future. No one could have imagined the tragedy that was about to unfold. On the morning of July 12, 2018, at around 9 a.m., Tom Rogers, a close friend and neighbor of Mike Muir, made a shocking discovery. Tom had stopped by Mike's house for their regular morning coffee. It was something they did every Thursday before heading to work. Tom noticed that Mike hadn't responded to his usual text message that morning, which was unusual but not alarming. Tom walked up the driveway and knocked on the front door. When there was no answer, he tried the doorbell, but still there was no response. Concerned, Tom decided to check if the back door was unlocked. As he walked around the house, he called out Mike's name but received no reply. When he reached the back door, he found it slightly ajar. Tom stepped inside and immediately sensed something was wrong. The house was eerily quiet. As he moved through the living room, he saw signs of a struggle, overturned furniture, and a broken vase on the floor. His heart began to race as he made his way towards the master bedroom. Upon entering the room, Tom was met with a horrifying sight. Mike Muir was lying on the floor, unresponsive, with severe bruises and injuries all over his body. He had been whipped to death with what appeared to be a woman's belt. The scene was gruesome, with clear signs of a violent altercation. Tom's hands shook as he dialed 911. The operator tried to keep him calm as he described what he had found. Tom's voice was shaky and filled with disbelief. He had never seen anything so violent and tragic. He stayed on the line, waiting for the police to arrive, unable to comprehend what had happened to his friend. Within minutes, sirens could be heard approaching. The police and paramedics arrived quickly. They found Tom standing outside, visibly shaken and in a state of shock. She guided him to a nearby bench and asked him to describe what he had seen. As Tom recounted the events, he struggled to hold back tears. He had known Mike for years, and the thought of his friend being brutally murdered was too much to bear. The paramedics confirmed that Mike was dead, and the police began securing the crime scene. The news of Mike's death spread quickly through the neighborhood. Friends and neighbors gathered outside, whispering in disbelief and mourning the loss of a beloved community member. The tragic discovery marked the beginning of a complex investigation into a case that would shock everyone who knew Mike Muir. When the police arrived at the Muir residence on July 12, 2018, they were quick and efficient. Detective Laura Martinez and her partner, Detective James Carter, led the investigation. Both were experienced officers known for their thoroughness and attention to detail. Detective Martinez, a methodical and calm investigator, quickly took charge, while Detective Carter, known for his sharp instincts, began assessing the scene. The crime scene was chaotic. The living room had overturned furniture, a broken vase, and other signs of a struggle. In the master bedroom, where Mike Muir's body was found, the scene was even more disturbing. Mike lay on the floor, his body covered in bruises and lash marks. He had been whipped to death with a woman's belt, which was found nearby. Blood was splattered on the walls and floor, indicating a violent and desperate struggle. Detective Martinez immediately began directing the team. She ordered the area to be cordoned off and assigned officers to interview neighbors and potential witnesses. Detective Carter focused on collecting evidence. He carefully bagged the belt and took samples of blood and hair from the scene. They also found several broken objects, suggesting a fierce altercation had taken place. The detectives called in a forensic team to assist with the investigation. The team used advanced tools to gather fingerprints, DNA samples, and other vital clues. They photographed the scene from multiple angles and meticulously documented every piece of evidence. The forensic team also used luminol to detect any hidden blood traces, revealing a clearer picture of the struggle that had occurred. As they worked, the detectives tried to piece together what had happened. They speculated that Mike had been attacked in the living room and had tried to defend himself, moving towards the bedroom in a desperate attempt to escape. The severity of his injury suggested that his attacker was driven by intense rage. Neighbors provided valuable information. Many of them reported hearing loud arguments and crashing noises coming from the Muir house the previous night. Some had even seen a shadowy figure leaving the house around midnight. Detective Martinez made notes of these accounts, planning to follow up with more detailed interviews. The investigation was intense and painstaking. The detectives were determined to find out who had committed this brutal crime. They worked late into the night, reviewing the evidence and developing their theories. Every detail mattered, and they knew that solving this case required a careful and methodical approach. By the end of the day, Detective Martinez and Detective Carter had gathered significant evidence, but many questions remained. Who could have harbored such rage against Mike Muir? And why? These questions would drive their investigation as they sought to bring justice for Mike and his grieving family. Jackie Muir, Mike's 41-year-old wife, was the first person the police investigated. Jackie was well known in the community as a devoted wife and mother. She ran a small home-based business, selling handmade crafts on Etsy. People saw her as creative and dedicated. However, there were troubling signs beneath the surface. Friends and family had noticed that Jackie had become increasingly suspicious and paranoid about Mike's activities. She often believed Mike was cheating on her. This paranoia led to frequent and heated arguments. Neighbors reported hearing shouting matches late at night. Jackie's jealousy was intense. She would become hysterical as she even thought Mike had talked to another woman, throwing dishes and other objects in a fit of rage. Once, she even tried to whip Mike with her belt during a particularly fierce argument. The police brought Jackie in for questioning on the afternoon of July 12, 2018. Detective Laura Martinez and Detective James Carter conducted the interrogation. Jackie appeared distraught and nervous. Her eyes were red from crying, and she fidgeted constantly. She denied any involvement in Mike's death, but her emotional state made the detectives suspicious. During the interrogation, Jackie's story was inconsistent. She claimed she had gone to bed early the previous night and didn't hear anything unusual. However, neighbors had reported hearing loud arguments coming from the Muir house. When confronted with this information, Jackie became defensive and agitated. She raised her voice and accused the detectives of trying to frame her. The detectives pressed further, asking Jackie about her relationship with Mike. Jackie admitted they had been having problems. She confessed to feeling increasingly jealous and angry, but insisted she loved Mike and would never harm him. Her answers were punctuated with outbursts of tears and frustration, making it difficult for the detectives to determine the truth. Jackie's possible motive was clear: her growing obsession with the idea that Mike was having an affair. The intense jealousy and frequent arguments pointed to a troubled marriage. The detectives knew they needed more evidence to confirm their suspicions. They decided to hold Jackie for further questioning and to conduct a thorough search of the house. Back at the Muir residence, the police searched for any additional clues. They found Jackie's diary hidden in a drawer. The diary revealed her deep-seated paranoia and documented her fears and suspicions about Mike's fidelity. It also contained detailed accounts of their arguments and her feelings of betrayal and rage. This new evidence painted a clearer picture of Jackie's state of mind and her potential motive for the crime. The detectives now had a strong lead, but they needed to continue their investigation to uncover the full truth. David Miller, a 38-year-old ambitious businessman, was the next person the police investigated. David worked in real estate and was known for his drive and determination. He had a competitive yet friendly relationship with Mike Muir. They often crossed paths in the business world and sometimes socialized together. There were rumors about the nature of their relationship, which added another layer of complexity to the case. The police brought David in for questioning on July 13, 2018. Detective Laura Martinez and Detective James Carter led the interrogation. David appeared calm and composed, but there was a nervous tension beneath the surface. He cooperated fully with the detectives, answering their questions without hesitation. David admitted that he and Mike had a close relationship, both professionally and personally. He revealed that he had developed strong feelings for Mike over time. David confessed that he had created a secret love shrine in his home, filled with photos and mementos of Mike. He spoke openly about his unrequited love, claiming it was a deep admiration that never crossed into anything harmful. During the interrogation, David's emotions were evident. He spoke passionately about his feelings for Mike, but firmly denied any involvement in the murder. He stated that he had been at home the night of the murder, working on a new real estate deal. His alibi was supported by emails and phone records, which showed he had been in communication with clients and colleagues during the time of the crime. The detectives explored David's potential motive. While his unrequited love for Mike could have driven him to extreme actions, there was no evidence linking him directly to the crime. David's calm and cooperative demeanor contrasted sharply with Jackie's defensive and agitated responses, making it harder for the detectives to pin him as the perpetrator. David's business dealings were also scrutinized. He and Mike had competed for the same projects, leading to occasional tensions. However, colleagues described their rivalry as friendly and professional. There were no signs of any major conflicts that could have escalated into violence. Despite his clear feelings for Mike and the strange nature of the love shrine, there was no concrete evidence to implicate David in the murder. The detectives concluded that while David's relationship with Mike was unusual, it did not provide a sufficient motive for murder. They decided to keep him on their radar but turned their focus to other potential leads. David's interview added another layer to the investigation, revealing the complex relationships in Mike's life. The detectives continued to piece together the puzzle, knowing they were still far from uncovering the full truth behind Mike Muir's tragic death. On July 15, 2018, just after noon, the police received a crucial piece of new evidence. It was a scorching summer day, with temperatures reaching record highs in Riverside, California. Detective Laura Martinez and Detective James Carter were at the police station, reviewing the case files, when Officer Linda Hayes rushed in with an urgent report. A neighbor had found a set of torn clothing in her backyard. The clothes appeared to belong to a woman and were stained with what looked like blood. Detectives Martinez and Carter quickly went to the house to collect the evidence. The clothes included a torn blouse and a pair of jeans, both of which were covered in dirt and blood. The detectives carefully bagged the items and sent them to the forensic lab for analysis. They hoped the blood on the clothing would match Mike Muir's, providing a direct link to the murderer. Back at the station, the forensic team worked swiftly. They tested the blood samples and confirmed that they matched Mike's blood type. This finding strengthened the theory that the killer had discarded the clothes while fleeing the scene. The detectives also examined the clothes for any additional clues. They found a small label inside the blouse with the initials JM, which they believed stood for Jackie Muir. Detectives Martinez and Carter brought Jackie in for further questioning. When confronted with the new evidence, Jackie became visibly distressed. She denied that the clothes were hers and insisted she had no idea how they ended up in the neighbor's yard. Her nervous behavior and contradictory statements only heightened the detectives' suspicions. With this new evidence, the detectives felt they were getting closer to solving the case. The torn, blood-stained clothing provided a tangible link to Jackie, reinforcing their belief that she was involved in Mike's murder. They continued to gather information and build their case, determined to uncover the truth and bring justice to Mike Muir. Hey, true crime case solvers interested in more real-life murder mysteries, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Stay safe, true crime case solvers. Sarah Jane Brines, a 34-year-old teacher, was the third suspect the police investigated. Sarah Jane was energetic and friendly, well-liked by her colleagues and students at Riverside Elementary School. She had known the Muir family because she taught their son, Bender. Despite her cheerful demeanor, Sarah Jane had a secret that complicated the case. Detectives Laura Martins and James Carter brought Sarah Jane in for questioning on July 16, 2018. She appeared calm but nervous, twirling a strand of her hair as she sat down. When asked about her relationship with the Muirs, Sarah Jane revealed that she had been having an affair with Jackie Muir for over a year. Although the affair had ended a few months before Mike's murder, Sarah Jane admitted she still had lingering feelings for Jackie. Sarah Jane's possible motive stemmed from jealousy and unrequited love. She confessed that she felt hurt when Jackie ended their affair and suspected that Jackie might have been trying to rekindle her marriage with Mike. However, Sarah Jane insisted she had nothing to do with Mike's death. Her alibi for the night of the murder was that she was at home, grading papers, and watching The Great British Bake Off on Netflix, a popular watch for those with anxiety and other mental disorders. She provided the detectives with her laptop, which showed activity during the time of the murder supporting her alibi. The detectives found Sarah Jane's behavior during the interrogation to be mostly cooperative. She answered questions calmly but seemed genuinely sad when talking about her past relationship with Jackie. Detective Carter noticed a hint of bitterness when Sarah Jane spoke about Jackie's attempts to fix her marriage, but there were no signs of violent tendencies. To verify Sarah Jane's statements, the detectives interviewed her colleagues and neighbors. They all described Sarah Jane as kind and professional, with no history of aggressive behavior. Her alibi was further confirmed by a few neighbors who remembered seeing her car parked in her driveway all night on July 11. Despite her apparent innocence, the detectives couldn't ignore the complexity of her relationship with Jackie. They theorized that Sarah Jane might have been driven by jealousy or heartbreak, but there was no direct evidence linking her to the crime scene. With Sarah Jane's alibi holding up and no concrete evidence against her, the detectives decided to focus on other leads. They kept Sarah Jane on their radar but shifted their attention back to Jackie, who remained the primary suspect due to her inconsistent statements and the newly discovered evidence. Sarah Jane's interview added another layer of intrigue to the case, revealing the tangled relationships and emotions surrounding Mike Muir's tragic death. The detectives continued their investigation, determined to uncover the full truth. On July 18, 2018, the police made a breakthrough. They had gathered enough evidence to arrest Jackie Muir for the murder of her husband, Mike Muir. The combination of the bloody belt, the torn clothes with Jackie's initials, and her inconsistent statements pointed to her as the murderer. Detective Laura Martins and Detective James Carter arrived at the Muir residence early in the morning. They knocked on the door, and Jackie answered, looking tired and anxious. She seemed to sense what was coming. The detectives calmly informed her that she was under arrest for the murder of Mike Muir. Jackie's face turned pale, and she began to cry, insisting that she was innocent. However, she did not resist arrest. As the detectives placed Jackie in handcuffs, neighbors gathered outside, watching in shock. Jackie's reaction to her arrest was one of disbelief and despair. She repeatedly asked, "Why the bleep would I kill him?" But the evidence against her was overwhelming. The police escorted Jackie to the station, where she was booked and held in custody. At the police station, during further questioning, the detectives confronted Jackie with the hypocrisy of her situation. They pointed out that she was obsessed with the idea that Mike was having an affair, while she had been having an affair herself with Sarah Jane Bryant. Jackie's reaction was explosive. She became violent, throwing things from her purse at the officers, and even taking off her belt and trying to whip them with. The situation escalated to the point where Jackie had to be physically restrained and was charged for attacking a police officer. After that, the detectives reviewed the case with their team. They had pieced together the events leading up to Mike's murder. Jackie's growing obsession with the idea that Mike was cheating on her had driven her into a fit of rage. On the night of July 11, 2018, an argument had escalated into violence. Jackie had grabbed her belt and whipped Mike repeatedly. The struggle had moved from the living room to the bedroom, where Mike ultimately succumbed to his injuries. Jackie's motive was rooted in her intense jealousy and paranoia. She couldn't bear the thought of losing Mike to another woman, even though there was no evidence that he was unfaithful. Her irrational fears and uncontrolled anger had led her to commit a heinous act. When the detectives informed Mike's family of Jackie's arrest, they were devastated but also relieved that the truth was coming to light. Mike's parents expressed their sorrow over losing their son and their shock at learning that Jackie was responsible. They struggled to reconcile the image of Jackie as a loving wife and mother with the violent actions that had ended Mike's life. The community was equally stunned. Friends and neighbors who had known Jackie for years were in disbelief. They had seen her as a devoted wife, not capable of such violence. The arrest sent ripples through Riverside, with local news stations covering the story extensively. The police had successfully identified and arrested the murderer, but the case was far from over. Jackie would now face trial, where the evidence against her would be laid out in full. The detectives knew they had done their job, but the tragedy of Mike Muir's death continued to weigh heavily on everyone involved. Jackie Muir's trial began on September 10, 2018. The courtroom was packed with family, friends, and curious members of the Riverside community. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Samuel Brooks, aimed to prove that Jackie's jealousy and rage led her to murder her husband, Mike Muir. District Attorney Brooks, a 45-year-old with a reputation for being tough and meticulous, presented the evidence against Jackie. He highlighted the bloody belt found at the crime scene, the torn clothes with Jackie's initials, and the violent confrontation Jackie had with the police. Brooks argued that Jackie's obsession with the idea of Mike having an affair, combined with her own secret relationship with Sarah Jane Brines, drove her to a deadly fit of rage. He detailed how the physical evidence and witness statements painted a clear picture of Jackie's guilt. Jackie's defense attorney, Maria Lopez, was a 38-year-old known for her compassionate yet fierce defense strategies. Lopez argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that Jackie's actions were not premeditated but a result of a momentary lapse in judgment. She tried to cast doubt on the prosecution's narrative by pointing out inconsistencies in the witness testimonies and suggesting alternative explanations for the physical evidence. Lopez emphasized Jackie's history as a loving mother and wife, arguing that the violent outburst was completely out of character. Throughout the trial, Mike Muir's family watched with heavy hearts. Richard and Susan Muir, along with other family members, found it difficult to sit through the details of Mike's death. Their emotional reactions were palpable, with tears often seen in their eyes as they listened to the testimony. The jury deliberated for 3 days. On September 20, 2018, they returned with a verdict: guilty of second-degree murder. The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read. Jackie showed little emotion, staring blankly ahead as she absorbed the news. Judge William Harris sentenced Jackie to 25 years to life in prison. He acknowledged the tragic circumstances but emphasized the need for justice and the severity of the crime. Jackie's sentencing brought some closure to Mike's family, though the pain of losing him remained. The community reacted with mixed feelings. Some believed the sentence was too harsh, given Jackie's prior good standing in the community. Others felt it was just, considering the brutality of the crime. Friends and neighbors of the Muir family expressed their continued support for Mike's family, attending the sentencing and offering their condolences. After Jackie Muir's trial, the lives of everyone involved changed significantly. Jackie was sent to the California Institution for Women to serve her sentence. She struggled to adjust to prison life, often reflecting on her actions and the impact they had on her family. Despite her circumstances, Jackie enrolled in counseling and educational programs, hoping to understand her behavior and seek some form of redemption. Mike Muir's family faced a difficult journey of healing. Richard and Susan Muir, Mike's parents, took on the responsibility of raising Bender, Mike, and Jackie's son. They worked hard to provide him with a stable home environment. Bender, who was only 10 at the time, struggled with the loss of his father and the imprisonment of his mother. His grandparents enrolled him in therapy to help him cope with the trauma. Sarah Jane Brines, the third suspect in the case, returned to her teaching job at Riverside Elementary School. Though cleared of any wrongdoing, the trial left a mark on her reputation. She focused on rebuilding her life and maintaining a low profile, dedicating herself to her students and avoiding the media spotlight. Her relationship with Jackie remained a topic of speculation, but Sarah Jane chose not to discuss it publicly. David Miller, the second suspect, continued his career in real estate. He maintained a professional demeanor, but found it challenging to escape the shadow of the trial. The rumors about his relationship with Mike Muir persisted, but David chose to focus on his work, distancing himself from the past as much as possible. Life after the trial was a period of adjustment and reflection for everyone involved. The tragedy of Mike Muir's death left a lasting impact, but the resilience and support of the community helped those affected find a path forward. The tragic case of Mike Muir serves as a stark reminder of how unchecked jealousy and obsession can lead to devastating consequences. Join us next time on True Crime Case Files as we continue to explore the darkest corners of human behavior and the relentless pursuit of justice. Thank you for